Hello, so we just want to welcome you to the Righteous View today. And today we have special guest Kathy Burgos. And she's going to be talking about her experience and what she went through with weight loss, with what else, her experience on losing weight. Amen. And so I'm really excited to have her on because I know, like, I usually hear, like, a lot of other, what are they, like, coaches and stuff like that, and a lot of times they only talk about, the physical part of, like, what to eat and, how to do exercise and stuff like that. But when I started hearing Kathy Burgos, what is it, the iPod? Podcast. On her podcast, and we'll give you all the information after. I just was like, wow, this is really interesting because she really goes in depth, gets to the root of the problem, and so that's what we're going to be speaking about now. But before we go into that, I just want to introduce Kathy Burgos. I've known Kathy for many years. And so we've kind of like kept in touch, like in and out, through social media and stuff. So I'm just excited to have seen her again in person and stuff. And so now when I seen her, because when I had met her, she was like 350 pounds. And so when I seen her today, I was like, wow, it just seems like she's a totally different person. And I just want to say I'm really proud of your accomplishments on getting to where you're at now. I know that it wasn't easy, physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's just really good that you're not only did you help yourself out, but you're taking that extra step in helping other people. So I'm just like really proud of what you did and stuff. And thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us and giving us tips on how we can also go about like healthy eating and just change our mentality physically, mentally, emotionally, so we too can become healthy, not only in our physical bodies but mentally as well. So do you want to say anything before we start?
Yeah, actually, I'm just so happy to be here. And yes, I've known Maribel, I think it's been about 8 years.
Yeah.
And, we have seen each other on social media and different things like that. And it's just really awesome to be able to share about it because so many people, in statistics, obesity is one of the #1 killers. And, people really, really need the support and the help. And I'm just glad to be able to share. I wasn't always at a place in my life where I would share with everybody. I was very private about it, but it's really that time that I know that it's time for me to share my successes and my failures, and if it's going to help somebody, it's worth it.
Wow, that's awesome. So I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. I was watching her podcast, and if I don't know if you guys all know her, but if you don't, I would recommend that you guys go onto her podcast and listen to it. It's really interesting, and even if you don't need to lose weight and whatever, it's really interesting on how we think of ourselves and how we think of food and stuff like that. So I really encourage you to go, and we'll give you information after and stuff like that. But man, so what was your breaking point on how you even got to to that point where you said, I need to make a change in my life?
Well, it was interesting because I knew I started gaining weight when I was in my mid-20s, maybe after I got married. And I started gaining weight, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, and I knew that, but it was always like, okay, Monday I'm going to start a diet. Monday I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to go eat chicken salads for a whole 30 days, and I would periodically, but every time that I would start, I would end up stopping, and then I would feel so bad about it, and then I would end up gaining even more weight. And I tried so many diets, and I tried so many things, and finally I went to the doctor because my husband kept telling me, I need you to go to the doctor, I want you to get checked out. And I didn't like to go to the doctor. Why? Because they always weigh you. And I didn't want to be weighed.
Wow.
So I ended up going, and the doctor came back with, or actually it was her, and she came back with a report that I was fine. I didn't have diabetes. I didn't have high blood pressure. And I was so excited about that. But then after she gave me the report of my blood test, she said, but I do need to let you know that I have to diagnose you with something. And I said, what? And she said, morbid obesity.
Wow.
And that wasn't a term that I used, on the regular. And then she said, you're points away from having, everything. And it was like such a shock to me, because I knew, but I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face it. I was a person that I gave instruction to people. I was a leader in different various places, and I was able to give people instruction on how to live their life, and to really come to that honest point in your life where you need change, and you need to practice what you're saying, was really an eye opener for me. So that was kind of when she said you have morbid obesity.
Wow. And
that was really what you would call the breaking point. Or
I know that a lot of times, so like me myself, like I don't realize how big I am until I take pictures or and stuff like that. So for those who are watching, even the ones that because I know sometimes we can be in denial. We can be in denial, and and so for those that are watching, those that even have to lose like 10, 20 pounds, or those that have to lose, 350 pounds, because I don't know if you're aware, but Kathy Burgos was 350 pounds. What are some tips that you can give, those that are watching, how to begin? Like, where do they start? Where do they go from here after they've realized, or after they said to themselves, enough is enough, I got to do something about this? Where do they start, or where can they go?
Right. So after that, it took me about 6 months. After that, I was so desperate, and I'm 5'3", I'm 350 pounds. I can't walk upstairs. I can't, and I used to love to travel. And me and my husband would go overseas, and we're talking like, 11-hour flights, and I couldn't even wear a seatbelt on an airplane. I had to have a seatbelt extender because, it wouldn't even fit on me. And trying to, keep up and, travel and do all the normal things that you think are just so easy. As I got older, it was harder and harder and harder to do. It was embarrassing. I mean, I would go to restaurants, and I would not go to a restaurant that didn't have like tables and chairs. If it had a booth, I wouldn't go because I was so afraid I wouldn't fit.
Wow.
And it came to the point where my life started being crippled, and I just was very unhappy. And like I said before, I was a person who gave instruction to people. Whether you're a leader, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a mother, a father, there's somebody that you tell what to do, or they come to you for advice. And, I was telling people different things, and then I realized, what about me? Where's my self-control? It's not there.
Wow.
And so so you said, like, what do you do? So like me, being the size that I was and being morbidly obese, I knew that my life was in danger. I was dying slowly. I was killing myself slowly. So I looked into weight loss surgery. I looked into, different diets again. I looked into finding support. So that's where I started.
I've heard some of your podcasts, and I've heard you mention too, like, which I felt like was really interesting, because especially if you live, or you are raised in the Latino community, your parents always want you to eat everything off your plate.
Yeah.
And I remember too, like I was never 350 pounds, but as growing up, I remember, we would walk and stuff like that, right? And so, I remember like eating not only doubles but triple plates and stuff like that, and so don't take my paper though.
Sorry.
So I remember, like, we would eat tortillas as spoons.
Yeah.
We had our spoons and we had our forks, but we used, and still, we use our tortillas as forks and stuff like that, and I really never had a weight problem as growing up. But things like that are in what is that called? Embedded in our mind and stuff. And so now, like for me, it is hard to just eat with the fork and not with the tortilla. Just little things like that, that make a big difference in our lives. So can you just kind of elaborate, growing up, how...
Yeah, well, and the way that I realized what was happening was because I did end up having vertical sleeve surgery, and that's where they go in. They don't cut you or anything, but they go in and they cut some of your stomach. And so I was able to lose like 90 pounds. So I thought I had arrived. From going from 350 to like 250, I was on cloud 9. I thought I was just, I'm buying clothes. I'm like, I think this is it for me. And I started going through some things in my life, and I ended up gaining some weight back. And it scared, and I'll just explain to you where I'm going with it.
Okay.
And it scared me half to death, because people think, if you have weight loss surgery or if you start any of the numerous diets out there, that you're good. It's not true. It's not a magic fix.
Right.
It helps you for a period of time, and that period of time is usually 9 months to a year. And during that time, you're supposed to relearn how to eat healthy. And if you don't, you're going to end up gaining. And you probably know some people who have done really well, and then all of a sudden. So that happened to me, and I gained 30 pounds back, and I was scared to death because I was like, okay. What do I need to do? And I started, God, what is it that caused me to overeat? Why was I doing this? And I went all the way back to my childhood, and I went to the patterns and the habits that were developed. And like you, I was given a plate for like a grown man.
Yeah,
but that's just how we it wasn't not normal. Everybody was like that.
Yeah.
And we would eat our food, and you couldn't leave the table till your plate was finished. And those were some of the things. My parents were awesome. It wasn't nothing about that. It was just, so I had those habits so deeply ingrained in me that if I would be at a dinner party and I seen people not eating all their food, I would be like, because I was used to that. And I started to look at the patterns and the habits that had been ingrained in me for so many years. And I knew that no diet, no surgery, nothing was going to help me until I changed those habits, the mentality, and the patterns in my life.
Wow.
I knew that had to change. Forget everything else.
Right.
If that wasn't going to happen, I was going to end up right back where I was. And I was determined, no, this is not going to happen.
And I know too, because, some people get the surgery, but they still want to eat and remain, like with that lifestyle. So when I've heard a lot of coaches, they say, that you have to make it a lifestyle. It's not, don't even say a diet, because, in your mind, you say, like I'm depriving myself. And so when you feel like you're depriving yourself, you can deprive yourself for a couple of weeks or months, whatever. And then later on, you're like, oh no, like I can eat this. And so I know that people have told me, you can have some, just, have a little bit of whatever, And so I know that you have to change, your lifestyle.
Right? Yeah.
So
one of the things is that sorry if you hear noise, it's my dog. Everybody who knows me knows I have a dog, and he is just acting up right now.
He's the cutest.
I think he wants to be on camera, honestly. So
we'll show him to you.
He's manipulating all the studio crew here with getting snacks. So, anyways, that's why you see us kind of laughing, because we're like, oh my gosh. But anyway, so I just had to explain that. So, where were we?
Making it a lifestyle.
Yeah, so making it a lifestyle. So, like I said, surgery and going to the gym for a month, or even trying to eat right, that didn't work for me because I started to gain weight back again. And so I went back, and I really. It was mentally and emotionally that needed to be fixed. I tried to do the physical route because, like you're saying, it's a lifestyle. Okay, well, some people say, okay, what's a lifestyle physically? But if that's all you do, there's going to be some point where you're going to hit and you're going to realize, you know what, I have to do more.
Yeah.
And that's where I realized processed food is not my friend. It's not my friend, and I had to learn how, and I'm not a natural person who loves to cook, so I had to learn how to change. I mean, we're talking a whole lifestyle change.
Wow.
The way you think, the way you respond to your feelings, and your physical.
Wow.
So we're talking a rebirth of a person, a complete rebirth, you know?
Well, that's pretty interesting, you know, it's because a lot of times when you just look at losing weight, a lot of people just see it as, okay, I can't eat this and I can't eat that and I should eat this and I should eat that,
right.
You know. And listening to your podcast, I've you know, heard a lot about, you know, the inner healing,
right.
You know, because a lot of people eat emotionally and a lot of people eat because of trauma and a lot of people eat, you know, different, for different reasons. And a lot of times, like myself, like I could, you know, by nature, you know, that's the way, you know, that's what my dad is. And so it was just, you know, genetically,
yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we can eat, and even if we're full, we can continue to eat, you know.
Yes.
And so I know that a lot of times we use food to, you know, as a Band-Aid as well, you know. And so hearing one of your podcasts, you had mentioned that you know, would use, you know, your situation to keep people away from you.
Yeah.
You know, can you share a little bit about that?
I want to share with that, but it's funny because you said people sometimes eat their emotions.
Yeah.
But I was also a person that, I don't know about, you know, the audience, but whenever there's a celebration, we go to eat.
Right.
Whenever there's a party, there's a wedding, oh my gosh, you got a promotion, let's go to dinner.
Yeah.
So it was like, I celebrated everything with food my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like that's normal. So if you're happy, you eat. If you're sad, you eat. If you're mad, you eat. You know, so it didn't matter what emotion I had, I'm gonna eat something. You know, or overeat, should I say? So and then you said about I'm sorry, but I had to include that because people don't think of that as.
I was listening to your podcast and you had mentioned that you would use your physical weight to keep people away from you.
Yeah. I really didn't realize that I was doing that as well. I know that I never really liked people to touch me or hug me, and I was part of something where you know, I was around a lot of people all the time, and they always kind of wanted to hug you and stuff, and it was really difficult for me because I wanted people to kind of stay away, and my weight kind of like was a boundary between me and people. It really was, you know. And my weight became a boundary. My dog is just out of control. And, you know, so it just became something that I would, it was like, okay, you can't get that close to me. You know, and I didn't really realize I was doing that, but when I started to look back, the trauma that I had faced in my life, being abused, and, you know, it was my way of keeping people at a distance physically from me. I didn't realize it was harming me. But it was my, like, you know, boundary. But I was creating it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Wow. Because of hurt and stuff like that. Like you were using it like to protect you, basically, like putting a wall between you and people so that you wouldn't get hurt again. Mm-hmm. Wow. And so, go ahead. Yeah, my card.
I'm sorry. Here. I'm just writing my notes.
Yeah, I'm going to give you one for your little notes. Sorry. That's okay. Can I have
I'm just so glad that you're giving me the opportunity to be able to share these things, because I know there's people out there who have tried. For 15 years, I tried everything under the sun. And like I said, even weight loss surgery didn't help. It wasn't until I had to be so brutally honest with myself and really say, I'm going to make, like you said, a lifestyle change.
Right.
You know?
And I know, like, sometimes, you know, like with us, coming from the background that we come from, you know, sometimes like we like self-sabotage ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
So, can you talk about that?
Yeah, that was something that I found so interesting about myself. It was almost like I was afraid of success. And you would think that is really odd. Like, why would you not want to succeed, right? Why would you not want to succeed? But it was almost like, if I lose this weight, if I'm able to do things, I'm gonna have to stop the habits and the patterns that I'm so used to. Even though they're killing me, they're comfortable. They're my friends now. You know, they're like my Linus blanket. And I didn't want to give that up. I thought, like, you know what? How is life gonna be? So it was like I would self-sabotage myself all the time. And it wasn't until, like I said, and you're correct, a lot of coaches, weight loss coaches, you name it, they always talk about, okay, you gotta work out. You know, if you contact them and you hire a coach, not everybody, but they will say, okay, here's your workout, here's what you eat, okay, you know, get back with me in a couple of days or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm going to the gym, I'm gonna buy all this stuff. And that's why in my coaching, I decided to add the other element, because I know how important it is. Because you can tell me, I knew anybody right now can go on YouTube or get a coach and they'll tell you what exercises to do. They'll give you a meal plan right now.
And I think that's why a lot of people fail, because they only do the surface. They only do it, and it will work. I'm not saying it won't.
It does. You're right.
It does work, but it only works for a season, and it only works for a moment, because, you know, a lot of times, like drugs, okay, so, or like drinking, you know, like when we go through something, we'll, you know, want to, you know, feel that hurt with drinking, right? And so when you know, and then when something happens, we go right back to it, right? And so when you know, you start losing weight, and you start the dieting or whatever, you start the eating right and stuff, and then you start, you know, everything else, and then something happens in your life, you're going to go right back to the old patterns.
Right. Exactly.
If you don't get down to the root of the problem, right? Because I know that it's you know, it has to be physically, not only physically but mentally as well, you know. So yeah, so I honestly believe that if you don't get to the root of the problem, that it's gonna, you know, just come back, you know, like you're, it's gonna work, whatever, you know, the coaches give you, it's gonna work, but only for a moment in a time, because when something happens, like let's say you're seeing somebody and then you end up breaking up or whatever, you know, you're gonna go right back to, you know, because you don't learn how to cope with in life, you know, or you don't heal, you know, those band-aids and those broken wounds and stuff, and so you go back to the same patterns when, you know, something happens in your life. Right?
Yeah, I really, that's so true, because, you know, if you don't deal with those things, it's like, you know what, you can lose your job tomorrow, your family member can die, you know, if there's something will come your way.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Exactly.
You know, you have to strengthen yourself mentally and emotionally enough, because your physical body can take so much. Your physical body can do it, but it's waiting on a signal from you. Right. So you can have, like I said, you can have those recipes, you can have those gym memberships. You know, there's people who have gym memberships for 2 years and they pay them and don't even go.
Me.
No, and you know, or have exercises or whatever, or they have their you know, me, I buy salad and it goes bad, you know, because I don't eat it.
Yes.
So it's like mentally and emotionally have to be strengthened. So you have the three parts working harmony. They're in harmony. They have to work in harmony in order for all of them to work together. And once you are mentally and emotionally, your physical body, and it's all working as a will. And because if one of those spokes is missing, you're gonna crash eventually.
Wow.
You know, so I had to learn that, and it's a lot of grit. I call it grit because it was like, okay, I am changing this. You know, no longer is my emotions and what I think my intelligence, because my intelligence tells me when you overeat, you're going to be overweight. But my emotions tell me, but you know what, you're upset right now. So why don't you know, you don't need to go work out right now.
Wow.
So you have to get a good rein on those and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do that work, and so that you don't keep falling back into the same habits and patterns you learned as a child, because I talk about that too. Socially, where we learn to eat all the time, and I still go to all social events. I just learned now what everything is permissible, but is everything beneficial?
So how do you do it? Like, let's say like you go somewhere, you don't take your food and stuff. So what do? You just don't eat?
Well, sometimes I do take my food.
Oh, okay.
And but so what I'll do if I go to a restaurant, immediately what I do, and people do at first, they're like, "What are you doing?" I'll order whatever I'm gonna order, and I'll immediately ask the waitress for a to-go plate, little thing that they give you, and I'll divide my food in half, and I'll put half immediately in the to-go. And I always ask them to bring my food without extra sauces, without plain. I ask them to put it all on the side so that I can control what I'm putting in my mouth. Especially when you go to a restaurant or anywhere, they sometimes they put the calories now, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's usually ×2, because they're putting sauces and butters, and so what I do, I'll ask for everything on the side, and I'll cut it in half, and then that way, okay, so half of that food is not there, and then I'm in control of what I'm eating. I make sure, and at first, people are like, "What are you doing?" My husband's used to it now. He's like, "Okay, this is gonna have to put everything on the side," but I know what I have to do for me. I have a goal.
Right.
I have a goal. I want to live a long time. I want to be able to be my best self, like this is called, and it's important to me. And you do what's important to you. If it's a priority, it's a priority, because people can make it. I made so many excuses. I had every excuse under the sun why I couldn't do it. And I blamed a lot of people too.
Wow.
I blamed my husband because he's eating pastrami and fries. So I guess I have to.
Wow.
Like, what? Girl, are you out of your mind? It's not his fault.
Wow.
You just don't want to do it. Just be honest with yourself. You don't want to do it right now. You think it's too hard. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people say, well, weight loss is so hard. It's harder to not lose the weight than it is to be, say, where I'm. It was harder for me at 350 pounds.
Not only physically, but mentally too,
oh, sure.
Right?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. So it's like you have to say, either I'm going to do it or I'm not.
I hear you talking about in your podcast how people would treat you differently, and it's sad, but it does happen, and not only with overweight people, but even with like what happened, with what's his name, like the Floyd, George Floyd, and then too, like with my mom, my mom, she's she speaks broken English and stuff, and so when I go to the store with her at times, I can see the discrimination. They don't really attend to her right away, or she's like pushed to the side and stuff like that. So I can see the way people treat her, other than the way people will treat me, because I can speak, good English and she can't. So I see the discrimination. And so I see you talking a lot about the discrimination even with overweight people, and I never realized that until I heard you say that on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, we all know, we get discriminated against because of our race. We happen to be, Latino, so that's one thing. Yeah. Then being a woman, you also get discriminated, and then being overweight too.
Wow.
So it's like I do notice a difference now. And it can be really subtle things, like say I'm walking into somewhere and people will open the door. Nobody ever opened the door before for me. Wow. And it's not really noticeable, or say I remember when I would go to get like gifts wrapped, like at department stores, they would make me like wait forever. And now when I go somewhere, people will be like, "Oh, can I help you?" They'll help me right away.
Wow.
And I never noticed it until, it's like I'll get preferential treatment sometimes, whereas before it was like I was almost ignored. Wow. Or I was like I wasn't there. It was like I wasn't there. And I didn't notice it until I started losing the weight, that I was like, wait a minute, this is different.
Wow.
This is different, you know. And so yeah, I mean, you know, I guess, you know, and I don't think sometimes people maybe mean to. Well, you know, some people probably do, but I think sometimes people don't know how to react if they see somebody so, you know, I was huge. It's like, where am I going to sit this person? Jeez, you know?
Yeah.
And having to have that mannerism where you can talk to somebody in a nice way. Everybody doesn't have that, you know?
So let's talk about that picture, the sculpting picture.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know, when I seen it, I was like, oh my God, you know, because, and
the statue?
There's a statue.
Describe it.
There's a statue that, you know, on the top, this girl, she's skinny, and then on the bottom, she's heavy set, and this girl is, you know, she's chiseling away at the bottom part and stuff. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, because not only did that minister to me, you know, the way I want to be physically, but it also made an impact in my mind and in my life, the way mentally, like you know, because I'm really, you know, I'm really into the whole mindset, you know, because my mentality, before getting saved, my mentality was screwed up, you know, and so my whole mentality, I did a whole, what is it, a 360? Yeah. Is that what it's called? A whole 360, and my whole mentality is changed, right? And so when I seen that, I was like, wow. And then there's also, I've also seen this thing, it's called Metamorphosis, you know, and so it kind of reminded me of that. You know, so I heard you talking about how you seen this picture on somebody else's site, and they had spoken of it totally, you know, because, and I talk about this a lot, that, you know, we all, you know, come from different backgrounds, we all have experienced different things in life, and so we're not all going to think the same, right? So you can see something, and when you see the picture, it spoke volumes to you. It did. When this other person that you've seen, on her social media platform, it was a whole different picture. Right. She took it totally different.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, so it's a picture of it's a statue of a woman chiseling away. And she's chiseling away, and you can see the to her waist that she's, like, you know, physically, you know, and then you can see what she used to look like. So when I first saw that picture, I was very inspired, because I said, that's me. I want to find the best version of me. Not just physically, but in all ways. And so when I wanted to do a YouTube video and a podcast about it, I couldn't find the picture. So I looked it up, and there was a blogger, and she was offended by this picture. And she was really offended, and the reason why was because she felt like society, in order for you to be quote-unquote normal in society, you had to be a certain size. And she didn't like that. And she felt like, you know, hey, I shouldn't be discriminated against because I'm heavy. I shouldn't not get good health care. I shouldn't get paid as much as somebody else. So all the things that I had experienced myself and being overweight, she was like fighting against that. Wow. And she was saying, hey, this is me. If I choose to be heavy, then I choose to be heavy. And I'm sure you've heard different people out there that are talking out about, you know, being big and being okay with it. And I'm healthy and I'm happy.
Do you think they're really okay with?
You know, I really got into some really heated discussions about this, because there is some famous people out there who are saying, hey, I may be bigger, but I'm healthy, I'm happy. And there's even shows out there about people who are saying, hey, I am big and beautiful, and this is my life. There's models, there's all of that kind of stuff. And at first I used to say, like, oh no, they're lying. But I will tell you this, and this is something that, no, they're probably not. They probably are satisfied and happy where they are. Because when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I was okay with it too. It wasn't until I got into my 40s that I started experiencing the physical problems.
So is it because you got bigger, or because you're
bigger and older? And my body, you figure for you know, 20 years, I'm carrying 200 pounds extra. I'm carrying a person on top of me. My bone structure, my blood vessels, my heart cannot handle that. And so as you get older, you start to experience, I didn't have the aches and the pains and the not being able to walk up the stairs when I was in my 20s and 30s. So I think as people age, they start to realize, man, this 350-pound body is having a hard time. So I don't think that they're telling an untruth, or they're just trying to say, oh, I'm okay, and show that brave face. Because at my younger years, I was with a brave face too, you know? So, but as I begin to age, so now I want to tell people, hey, you might be 20 pounds, 30 pounds. Your heart was not designed to take that.
Wow.
And you're hurting yourself. You know, not just fit, we're not just talking about the outward. Because when I first started to want to lose weight, this was my number one goal. Let me show you how shallow this is. I wanted to walk into any store that there was, and I wanted to be able to pick out any outfit I wanted right off the rack. Because I couldn't. And that's all I wanted. Never did I realize that it was going to change my life so drastically, that it wasn't about a clothing size.
Wow.
But in the beginning, that's all I wanted. I wanted to walk into, you know, you name it, and get whatever I wanted, and not even have to try it on.
So okay, so that
Did I
was,
answer that? So I don't think they realize
you answered.
what's going to happen
Right.
as they, you know, and you have to be careful, because people can hear this on social media and go crazy. There was a fitness person who criticized somebody that was bigger. And said, oh no, you just need to get right, you know, you're influencing all these people to be, you know, and people went after her. And, you know, and me, I was bigger. I would never talk down about anybody who's at a bigger size. But I think when I got older is when I really realized it.
I just really honestly believe that, and that's why I asked you, do you really believe? Because again, I'm, you know, you were 350 pounds. I've never been there before. So the way I think about this whole thing will be totally different than the way you think about it. And that's why I was asking you, you know, do you think that they were really happy? Because we live in different bodies, and we all have you know, grown up in different, you know, homes, and we've all experienced different traumas and stuff like that. And so and so the way I view something, you know, you're not going to view. And just like example, like the way you viewed that picture, that other person viewed it totally opposite. So again, you know, what we say, you know, different people, they're going to take it different anyways. But again, you know, TRV is always, you know, just a platform to open their eyes, and this is for those who want to receive it, and it is not to put anybody down, of course. You know, I just found it really interesting how, you know, when I was watching your podcast, how you know, the just the things that you were saying, you know, that it wasn't just physically, but it was mentally and emotionally and stuff, and so I just kind of wanted to get your side of the story, because, you know, there are people that, you know, you might not be 350 pounds, you might just want to lose 10 or 20 pounds, you know, but you know, we all are getting older and stuff, and we all have to take care of our bodies, and if this can help you, or if you know that this can help anybody else, I recommend that you share it and stuff. But I just wanted to get, you know, Kathy's side of you know, because I'm really proud of her. You know, it's not easy, you know, what she did, and so so what can people do, you know, to start, like what steps are that some people can take in order to start their process, you know, like I know that you had said that you had started it off too, you know, just to go into a store and pick a size 6 and stuff. But what are some other stuff that you have benefited from this, and how do you think about it now? Like man, you know, what are some other
well, I mean, it really started with me being honest with myself. You know, and that was, and it's probably the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
It is. But when the doctor told me, and she said morbid obesity, and I went and looked it up.
Wow.
And I think I was like a 53. My BMI was like 53. And that's when people start having heart attacks. Wow. And that's when people start like falling over and they die. You know? Wow. And for my height, you know, I think I'm supposed to be like at a 25. So I was double the capacity. And I think it was only God's grace that I didn't have anything at that point, you know? And being honest with yourself is going to take probably the most work. Going to the gym is nothing. Eating a healthy, nutritious meal, and I don't have bad foods or good foods. I eat everything. It's just in the capacity that I choose to eat it in. And it's just being honest. And once you're able to say, you know what, and sometimes you need support, you know, and being honest that you need support. Right. And that part is where people, like, your pride can pull up, like, oh, well, I got this. I did it before. I lost 20 pounds before. I can do it again. And, you know, being in a vicious circle is, like, miserable. Yeah. And that's what I was in. I'd lose 20, gain 30. Lose 40, gain 50. And it's like, man, did I want to live my life like that? Continually? You know, it affected my spirit. It affected everything I did. You know, for years and years. And people, and now, like, some of my friends are like, I never knew how unhappy you were. Because I didn't show it all the time. But I was. You know, I didn't want people to know. Even when I first started, I didn't tell people because I was embarrassed.
Did you get any, you know, like, oh, you know, you're exaggerating, or, you know, did you get any...
What do you mean, exaggerating?
Yeah, like, you're going too far, because, you know, like...
You mean now?
No, like when you were trying to, you know, eat healthy and stuff like that, and when people would see that what you were doing...
Oh, yeah. People would, you're obsessed. And even now, I mean, people are like, you know, you need to stop losing weight, you know, and I'm still not finished. I'm still on my journey. I still have a certain place that I want to get to, and people are like, you need to stop. I'm really concerned for you. Like, want to do intervention. and you know what? I know that they love me, you know, and I also know that they're not used to seeing me like this.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When somebody else sees me, they probably, you know, but your loved ones, they don't know what you're going through. You know, they don't. And you know, but I've already gotten to that, where you're obsessed, and, you know, why are you doing that? And, wow, that's all you eat? And, you know, you're taking that with you. You know what? I got a goal. I finally, because at first I would get a little, like, I would try to explain myself to everybody. Wow. First, you know, and then it was like, you know what? I have a goal. I have a goal, and this goal is pushing me. And now my new goal, as I reach my goals that I'm making, is to help other people. Because I never told anybody. People would always DM me, what did you do? Oh my God, how are you losing weight? And I never told them because I was so embarrassed. And then I would see pictures of myself, like you said, that denial, and I would be like, oh, and I really wasn't in a lot of pictures. You know, I wish I had more now, but I was like, oh my gosh, me and my husband were the number 10. You know what I mean? Walking down the street. Wow. And I, you know, it was like, I was like, why did I do that to myself? How did I get there? It was like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? What was going on? And here I was, like I told you, if you're a supervisor, you're a leader of some capacity, mother, father, pastor, and you're like giving instruction to people, you know, are you practicing what you're preaching? I wasn't. You know, if you want to talk about being in a Christian life, the fruit of the Spirit, one of them is self-control. Wow. And that's yet deep. I'm telling somebody, you know, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, you should, and you know, and meaning well, but I didn't live it. Wow. And I know there's so many leaders out there, and spiritual leaders and life coaches, and you name it, and nobody's perfect. Yeah. You know, I know that. But that was one of my things that I said, God, grant me repentance, because I did not practice the spirit of self-control.
That's deep.
And I had to face that, and be able to face that and know that you're telling everybody what to do, but yet you're not doing it, is like, it's humbling. Yeah. And it's like, wow. But you know what? Then you pick yourself back up and you say, you know what? I'm going to do the best that I can. And it's day by day. Sometimes it's hour by hour. You know? Yeah. And then you just go for it. I know there's people that are, they're leaders of huge things, or they're helping so many people, but they're miserable inside. That's how I was. I was helping all these other people get the victory. Yay! And there I was, you know, I'm the number one cheerleader, but yet I'm suffering inside. Because I wasn't taking the time. How can you take care of somebody else if you don't take care of you? You're gonna crash and burn at some point. And that's what happened to me. And I wasn't able to take care of anybody else anymore because I had ran out. And so that's what I mean about being honest. And everybody has a different point. But that's where I was. And then, you know, when my husband hears me tell people, he's like, wow, you're so transparent. I have to be.
Yeah.
I have to be because, you know, if I'm going to reach somebody else, my greatest pain can bring somebody else their greatest victory.
Wow.
And I know that.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I thank you for, sharing. And if, do you want to share your social media?
Sure. So I am sharing in all transparency with people. I do have a coaching, and I do have people who are my clients who haven't had weight loss surgery and who have. Doesn't matter. It's called Gold Coin, and I have a YouTube, and I have podcasts, and I have Instagram, and I have Twitter, and I have Facebook, and I have a website. And I'll give the information to Maribel and share it. And I have plans that you can follow. And I really, I do have exercise plans and meal plans, but we also talk about what's going on the inside so that you can be successful for long term. And that's something that, it's important. It's really, really important. And thank you so much for coming and just, sharing, your heart with me, and also just giving me the opportunity to share my story.
You're welcome, and thanks for coming on. Just this morning, I listened to her, her Instagram, they take you to her podcast, and just this morning I was listening to it laying in bed, waiting for church, and then I was listening to her, and then I'm like, I'm going to go take a walk, because you inspire me, and so I know that you will also be inspired as well. And so I really encourage you to listen to the podcast. It's like, again, I've heard other people that have lost weight, they're always talking about, what not to eat, what exercise to do. But she really gets into, the mental side of it, the trauma side, why you do what you do, And so I really encourage you to get on. And just want to, before we close, I just want to talk about what's going on with, what's his name? George Floyd. It's like, I put a scripture up on my Facebook, and it talks about, some of the signs of Christ's return. And one of the signs is lawlessness. And I even put the definition of lawlessness, and it talks about how people are going to come against authority and stuff. And I'm not saying what had happened is all good. I'm not dismissing what had happened. I'm all for the what are they called,
protesting.
The protesting. I'm not against the protesting, because again, enough is enough, right? But I am against the whole looting. I just believe that people are just taking advantage of the situation. I pray for peace for Mr. Floyd's family. For what they must be going through. But again, and I was talking to one of the sisters that came to help me, and I just want to share with you is that, I know that the police officer that, caused this, he's on suicide watch, and what he did was not right. I totally get it and stuff, but he's also a soul, and I don't believe he did it on purpose. He didn't say, when, today I'm going to wake up and kill, Mr. Floyd, and I'm not, again, I don't agree with what he did, and I don't believe that he, he was probably, being racist, and he was probably using his authority, misusing his authority. I get that, but again, he's a soul too, and so I know that we just have to pray for peace right now. Pray for peace on what's going on. Pray for the families of Mr. Floyd, and pray for the officer. The Word of God says that we need to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Amen. So we just need to pray for everyone. Every soul matters. And so I know that, business owners are being affected by this. They didn't have anything to do with what happened. And here you have people taking advantage of the situation and making it worse. And I even heard that a police officer got shot and killed, and he was a black man. And so when is this going to end? The protesting is good because, the police officer needs to, do his time or whatever they're going to do to him. But again, what is the business owners, what did they do for all these people to take advantage and break the windows and set, their buildings on fire and stuff? So we just need to pray for peace right now, pray for peace and pray that this will just end. Amen. And so I don't know if you want to, if you have anything to say.
Well, I look at it from the standpoint of, these last couple of months in LA, Daniel Hernandez was, killed by LAPD. I also witnessed on the news, and it's been all over the internet, a man being beaten by a cop in Boyle Heights. And, it didn't make big headlines like George Floyd. And a lot of our people are being, just, they feel, and I even feel myself at times, that, I'm not safe. If I get pulled over by the police for any reason, I'm not comfortable because I don't know what's going to happen because of my race, and living in LA for so many years, it's scary because you don't know, and you don't feel like, I'm going to be safe at any moment, or if I express myself, am I going to be shot and killed?
Right.
And so that's a reality for so many Latinos and so many blacks. And so for the leadership in our country, they have to come with a different verbiage, because telling people, hey, you guys are thugs, and telling people, hey, this is not going to help. I think the people who are doing it, yes, I believe there is people who are just, taking advantage of business owners, and I don't agree with that as well. But I know for the people who weren't around when that happened to Rodney King, it's like we've experienced this before.
Exactly.
And LA is still not rebuilt. So yeah, it's gonna devastate so many people. But when you have people who feel that they don't have a voice in their own city, in their own streets, they don't feel safe, I feel like they don't have any other recourse, and they're crying out, and they want to be heard, and they feel that's gonna work. Yeah. No, I know when they said this is the 5th night, and yeah, I mean, I'm devastated myself. I couldn't even finish watching when he was murdered, because I was like, man, that could be me, that could be my grandson, that could be my husband, that could be anyone.
Abusing authority. These people are supposed to be in position and in leadership.
My husband,
to help us.
He his grandson, he said he had to teach his grandson, look, if police ever come around you, I want you to put your hands on the dashboard. Don't say yes, sir. It's like you have to teach your grandchildren and your children and your family members, when a police officer comes around you, don't talk back, because they
well, because your grandsons are black, right?
Yeah, half black, half Mexican,
half
or
black,
even Mexican, like
and Mexican, yes.
So it's like, you know what? How sad that I have to teach them that. It's 2020, and have to teach them. Don't look them in the eye. Put your hands on the dashboard. Like, what? They're supposed to be serve and protect.
Exactly.
But the thing is I also have friends that are police officers, and I know everybody is not the same.
Exactly.
So it's like, you have your loved ones that are police officers, that are good cops, that are doing great things, and then you have this.
Again. And that's why, again, I say we just got to pray.
Yes,
got to pray for both sides, both sides, because, there's some there's like that police officer that died too. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
and he was black. So I don't, you know, you don't know where to go from here but prayer.
Right.
Because,
Exactly.
you know,
Right.
we don't have an answer. We don't have an answer. And I agree with the protesting. I don't agree with the looting because I just feel like that's just making it worse.
Yeah.
You know, and I just kind of believe too that everybody just being, you know, kept inside, and then this happened, and so they just, you know, it was just
if I
kind
can
of
say
built
too,
up.
and I don't think people realize this, there's a pastor in Tennessee who wrote today, there's a lot of groups that are being sent into cities that are having these protests to start and to, you know, agitate. And they're starting fires, and they're paid to do this.
Wow.
And I was like, and my husband had told me that too. He said, you know what, this is not just to agitate, to add to the problem. You know, it's political too. So that's another thing we got to pray about.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So we thank you for joining us, and I thank you for coming on. Don't forget, like and share. Amen. And we will see you tonight at 7 o'clock.